Thank you very much, Mr. President. Now, may we request the Postmaster General of the Philippine Postal Corporation, Norman Fulgencio, to present the Murillo Velarde map circa 1734 commemorative stamp to President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Thank you, Postmaster General Fulgencio. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Philippines, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 500th anniversary of the Philippine part in the first circumnavigation of the world. To start, may we call on Giwan Mayor Annalisa. May we now please be seated? May I call on Mayor Annalisa Gonzalez Cuan for her welcome remarks.
Our beloved President, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, other distinguished guests, mga kasama ko sa gobyerno, hinigugma ko nga mga giwananon nga akon ginsiserbihan, good afternoon. On behalf of the municipality of Giwan, it is my pleasure and pride to welcome you all to this beautiful, historic town with hospitable and magnanimous people. 500 years ago to the day, March 18, 1521, our Suluan ancestors' reception of the tired, hungry, and sick Magellan Elcano crew was very instrumental in the success of the first circumnavigation of the world, a great human achievement, scientifically, culturally, and historically. After a very arduous voyage crossing the Pacific Ocean that was never before traveled, where their maps were useless, where they saw nothing but water and sky, Antonio Pigafetta wrote, "No one in the future would dare to undertake such a voyage." And Sebastian Elcano said, 3 months and 20 days, we did not find any island, but 2 small islands, Suluan and Humonhon, here in Giwan. Starving and parched, they finally landed on Humonhon, and were visited by our Suluan ancestors. They gave them food, drink, and friendship, which perhaps lifted their spirits enough to get them over the shame of failure, frustration, and disappointment. The Suluanons' compassion and ready, wholehearted friendship may have given them the strength to complete what they started. Allow me to conclude that without our Suluan ancestors, the Magellan-Elcano fleet might have not been able to complete the circumnavigation. Kindness, help, and humanity, these are the Giwananons' gift to the world. 500 years ago, and up to now, we have shown our humanity to strangers coming to our shores. Humanity is our heritage. This is us. This is who we are as Giwananons and Filipinos. President Duterte, we thank you for the support of the national government to the quincentennial commemoration of the Philippine part of the first circumnavigation of the world. We welcome you with our most humble spirit of hospitality, friendship, and goodwill. My people here are so excited to see you in person. Not only did we prepare for these quincentennial commemorations, but also for your visit. If you go around Giwan, you will see that our 60 barangays exhausted all efforts to prepare for you. I was so happy seeing the people cleaning their streets and houses, even if they knew that you would not be able to go to their places. We really find joy in welcoming anybody. And on this historic visit, we especially welcome you. Thank you for visiting your people of Giwan, Mr. President. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Annalisa Gonzalez Cuan. May we now listen to the message of the Governor of Eastern Samar, Ben Ivardone.
Mr. President, the Spanish ambassador and members of the diplomatic community, members of the cabinet, other national government officials, local government officials, ladies and gentlemen, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. First of all, Mr. President, thank you for accepting my invitation to this historic event. Thank you also, Senator Bongo, yung tunay na senador na may malasakit, for gracing this occasion. We are deeply honored by your presence. As most of us know, 500 years ago, a Spanish expedition led by Ferdinand Magellan came ashore in the island of Homonhon. After 4 months of voyage from the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, the Spanish crew was starving, dehydrated, depressed, and on the brink of death. Our ancestors in Homonhon Island had no clue what brought the Spaniards there. Are they being invaded? The thought must have crossed their minds. But seeing their visitors in despair and in need of help, our ancestors set aside fears and suspicions and shared their food and water. They brought comfort to those in need and helped the visitors back on their feet. Without this great act of humanity, Magellan's bid to become the first to circumnavigate the globe would have ended right then and there. Our ancestors acted with magnanimity and compassion, notwithstanding race, creed, or language barrier. They restored our faith in humanity. As we mark the start of the Philippine quincentennial commemoration in our beloved province of Eastern Samar, let us emulate the same spirit that our ancestors displayed half a century ago. Let us show our compassion to those who are in need, most especially those who are losing hope because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let us again proclaim to the whole world that we, the Filipino people, and the Samareños are in solidarity with all mankind in trying to bring hope as we battle this pandemic. Let us continue to liven the greatest acts of humanity of our ancestors in these trying times. Maraming salamat at mabuhay ang Pilipinas.
Thank you, Governor Ben Ivardone. May we call on now DILG Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya for the overview of the 500th anniversary of the Philippine part in the first circumnavigation of the world.
Mr. President, the Spanish Ambassador, Senator Bongo, members of the Cabinet, Governor Ivardone, our dear mayors from Eastern Samar, and everyone, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. I have the honor to read the message of the National Quincentennial Committee led by Executive Secretary Salvador Mildaldea and Chairman Rene Escalante of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. Let me start this message with a quotation from Antonio Pigafetta, the chronicler of the Magellan-Elcano expedition, the one who proved that the world was indeed round. He wrote, "We ate biscuit, which was no longer biscuit, but powder of biscuits swarming with worms. We drank yellow water that had been putrid for many days. Often we ate sawdust from boards. The gums of both the lower and upper teeth of some of our men swelled, so that they could not eat under any circumstances, and therefore died. Had not God and His Blessed Mother given us so good weather, we all would have died in that exceeding vast sea." Antonio Pigafetta wrote this entry in his chronicle 3 weeks before they sighted the island of Samar. By the time they reached the eastern Visayas, I would suppose their situation was far much worse than what he described above. As we commemorate the 500 years of the first circumnavigation of the world, I would like to ask two questions related to this big event. One, what is the contribution of our country to this achievement of mankind? Second, what is the significance of this achievement to the present generation? With regard to the first question, allow me to continue reading Pigafetta's account. The Captain General, referring to Magellan, seeing that they were reasonable men, referring to our Waray ancestors of Giwan, ordered food to be set before them and gave them red caps, mirrors, combs, and bells. When they saw the captain's courtesy, they presented fish, a jar of palm wine, bananas, and coconuts. Pigafetta also wrote that they went ashore in Samar and rested to let their sick comrades recover from the debilitating journey. This account of Pigafetta clearly shows the generosity and magnanimity of our ancestors. This is the major contribution of the people of Samar to this expedition. If they drove the newcomers away from their island, or worse, if they displayed hostile attitude towards them, the expedition might have ended in Samar and the circumnavigation of the world would not have been completed. As regards the second question, I would argue that the event we are commemorating today here in Samar is important to us Filipinos because it says a lot about what kind of people we are. What transpired in Samar 500 years ago clearly showed that we, Filipinos, are generous, kind-hearted, and always willing to help those who are in need, regardless of race and citizenship. This is the reason why the National Quincentennial Committee, under the able leadership of Executive Secretary Medjaldea and Chairman Rene Escalante of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, chose humanity as one of the themes of the 2021 Quincentennial celebrations. History is replete with episodes showing the Filipino heritage of magnanimity and compassion. We extended the same to the Chinese who fled their country during the Opium Wars and during the Cultural Revolution in China. We did the same to the Jewish refugees who were persecuted by the Nazis in 1939, one of the few countries to do so. Filipinos also extended assistance to the White Russians who fled their country during the reign of Joseph Stalin in 1949. And surprisingly, they found a new home here in this very town of Giwan. In the 1970s, the Philippines offered refugee centers to Vietnamese boatmen who fled their country after the fall of Saigon. And most recently, our very own President Duterte, in a gathering of agrarian reform beneficiaries in Cotabato last December 23, echoed the same magnanimity to the Rohingyas who are being persecuted in Myanmar and Bangladesh. The President offered safe haven to the Rohingyans, and it came at a time when they were looking for a better life and peaceful living conditions. As we commemorate the 500th anniversary of the first circumnavigation of the world, let us once again promote the Filipino heritage of magnanimity and hospitality, but mindful of our sovereignty and security. These values we are espousing, this quincentennial, serve as ego booster to each and every Filipino in this time of pandemic, a driver of confidence to foreign domestic tourists to come and enjoy the beauty and heart of the Filipino, and a reminder to the whole world how compassionate we are, especially our overseas Filipino workers. We also dedicate this quincentennial to our medical frontliners who offer not only their skills and knowledge in combating an invisible enemy, but their heart and willingness to attend to the medical needs of our sick brothers and sisters. We also need to remind our business leaders to be extra considerate and generous to our countrymen who lost their livelihood in this pandemic. As the theme song of the 2021 Quincentennial, titled Bagani, says, "Mandirigmang Pilipino, dakila ang lahi ko, bayaning Pilipino sa makabagong panahon." Thank you at mabuhay ang Republika ng Pilipinas.
Thank you so much, Secretary Jonathan Malaya. At this point, may we call on the Secretary of the Department of Labor and Employment, Secretary Silvestre Bello III, to introduce our guests of honor.
Ang minamahal kong kababayan, mga kaigalan, malaking karangalan at kaligayahan ko na ipaikalala sa inyo ang pinakamamahal natin at nagmamahal na Pangulo ng Republika ng Pilipinas, Mayor Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
Kindly sit down. Thank you. Spain Ambassador to the Philippines, His Excellency George Moraga Sanchez, Labor and Employment Secretary Silvestre Bello, Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Secretary Salvador Panelo, Presidential Assistant for the Visayas, Michael Lloyd Dino. Senator Bongo, Eastern Samar Lone District Representative Maria Fe Abunda, Eastern Samar Governor Ibardoni, Ben Gian Down Mayor Analisa Gonzalez Juan. The other officers of the Mayor's League, Philippine Postal Corporation Chairman Norman Porhenco, mga kasama sa gobyerno, mga minahal kong kababayan. I would have opted to deliver a longer speech. It's only 2 pages. And I would have wanted to talk about this particular journey to the team that arrived here many years ago. I join you today as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the arrival of Magellan Elcano expedition in the Philippines, which is one of the most important parts of humanity's first circumnavigation of the globe. The event marked our ancestors' first contact with the Spaniards, and as an opportunity for our forebears to show their unity, magnanimity, and sovereignty to our foreign guests. In Humonhon, our ancestors exemplified the unique generosity of the Filipino when they helped the Spaniards' expeditions depleted crew upon their arrival. A few days later, in the Battle of Mactan, Lapu-Lapu and his warriors, in an exemplary display of firm leadership and extraordinary courage, defeated and drove away the colonials. I hope that we commemorate these events that shape our history 5 centuries ago. We may reinvigorate the historical and social civic consciousness of the Filipino, especially among the new generation. Let us therefore all take part in this 2021 quincentennial commemorations slated this year, so that we may bring our history, culture, and traditions closer to our hearts. Indeed, history should make us reflect on the past and look beyond our future. We should therefore honor those who have toiled so that we may become a nation we are today, modern, progressive, and ever thriving. And while the events that we celebrate would therefore lead to the beginning of colonization, the Filipino people can find relief in the knowledge that we have gone far in our efforts to correct the mistakes of the past. As inheritors of this complicated yet glorious past, the duty now rests on the shoulders to continue the aspirations of the forebears. I therefore call on our kababayans to appreciate our rich history and learn from the experience of those that came before us, so that we may never again allow any other tribe to compromise our sovereignty. Invaders who would come and who would stay here and contribute to the richness of our culture, and of course, in the way of how we live. It says here, thank you at mabuhay, sambayan ng Pilipino. Wala naman. Okay. That's the speech. Usually the presidential staff would prepare a speech, ano lang, maiksi lang. I want to go to extemporaneous, but this is not the time. It is enough that we are here upon the invitation of the governor. And also, I forgot the greet all of you. This is a historic event, and though they may somehow we may differ in our interpretation, but the fact is that they were here and that contributed something that was good for our country. I do not have anything about religion, but what was really planted here was the sword and the cross of Christianity. Hindi na bale yan. Total sa dumaan na yan. So that we may remember their kindness and their bravery, to extol on their bravery to make this hazardous journey that completed the circumvention of the world. They conquered history, and until now, we are also celebrating because it was the first time that we saw foreigners in our native land. That alone speaks a volume of stories, but we are also conscious of the fact that it was the reality of the moment at that time. So we thank everybody, the ancestors of the Spaniards who came here, and we hope that this event will further fortify our relations with the Spaniards. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, for your attendance in the 500th anniversary of the Philippine part in the first circumnavigation of the world. We are deeply honored with your presence, and also thank you, Senator Bongo and Governor Benny Vardoni, for joining the President in this momentous activity in the municipality of Giwan, Eastern Samar.
The governor, I undertook this trip to just see for myself what beautiful island you have. Napakaganda ho na sa taas titignan ang ano ninyo. There's a beautiful place like the beautiful people who are here na nakikita ko. Again, maraming salamat at we have to fly to Tacloban for another TAT, something like, I'd like to talk to the rebels there. Dito, I will have the time, I may come back someday para sa ibang program na. But this time, I would focus my presence and my narratives not against the NPAs, but rather I would talk if we can find a sense of what we are really fighting for or against government. Maraming salamat po.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Philippines, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Please remain seated until after the President has left the program venue. Again, we request everyone to please remain seated until after the President has left the venue. Thank you, everyone.
Para sa pagbabago, sawa na ang bayan ko sa magnanakaw na tao. Madilim na kahapon, ikaw ang mag-aahon. Sa piling mo, di ko mawawala ang korupsyon. Tayo na, Pilipinas, tayo na magbago. Hawak kamay tayo para sa pagkasenso. Ikaw at ako, tayong lahat kay Rodrigo Duterte, para sa tunay na pagbabago. Masdan mo ang paligid, talamak mga krimen, rape, droga at mga nakawan, dapat nga mapigilan. Tayo na, Pilipinas, tayo na magbago. Hawak kamay tayo para sa pagkasenso. Ikaw at ako, tayong lahat kay Rodrigo Duterte, para sa tunay na pagbabago.
Why am I here? I am here because I love my country and I love the people of the Philippines.
Ikaw at ako, tayong lahat kay Rodrigo Duterte, para sa tunay na pagbabago.
Mandirigmang